Oh, we could fly.
Welcome to this new season of the Have a Cup of Jahani podcast. So, I want to title this new season that I'm embarking on with I'm Growing. So, this is going to be the season of growth. And that's what I'm going to share with you throughout the season. So, I thank you for coming over here and sitting with me. And I hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. This episode is going to be so special because if you listen to it on Wednesday, as soon as it publishes, it would have been past Christmas, but we will still be in this holiday spirit, this holiday season per se. And in this episode, I wanted to do something different. I wanted us to learn together about different traditions around the world that happened during this holiday time. So as you all may know, Christianity, we have Christmas, but there's other countries and other religions or other groups of people that they celebrate something else, like a Christmas adjacent holiday. And I wanted to go through all of these with you because very recently I went to ChatGPT, this AI software, right? And I asked, what are other Christmas-esque holidays that happen around the world? And I did this because I wanted to find out what they were. I knew a few. I didn't know all of them, but also because I wanted to make coloring pages for the kids from my coworkers that will be going to the holiday party that we had a few weeks ago. So I wanted to have representation on the table when it comes to coloring. So that way people can see different traditions, perhaps see themselves. So are you ready to go around the globe in this metaphorically journey with the whole truck or choo-choo train, if you may, as we go from country to country or from territory to territory? Are you ready? All right, let's go. What are we going to start with? Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's start with Hanukkah. Hanukkah, I think we know this one. This is an 8-day Jewish festival, and it's all about celebrating the miracle of a small oil flask that burned for 8 days in the rededicated Second Temple of Jerusalem. When I went into jewishhistory.org, I went a little deeper into it because I was like, let's figure this out a little bit better. And as it happens, what it has here is that this holiday commemorates a military victory. But what stood in the Jewish people's mind at that time was the tiny cruse of oil and how that proved so miraculously and endured throughout the rededication of the temple. And during this time, I'm reading from jewishhistory.org, by the way, about the year 166 BCE, a group stood up to the Greeks. So at that time, Jewish people were subjugated, very harsh, intolerable laws. And some of those where they made the Jewish people finance their war by collecting taxes. Then they forced them to quarter their soldiers in Jewish homes. And they were little by little eroding their tradition, their religion as well. Because it says here that there was a third, that's what it theorizes on jewishhistory.org, of Jewish people that were Hellenists, meaning that they had giving up on their Jewish faith and they took back the circumcision and started to eat pork. As it happens, the Jewish people didn't stand for that and they went into battle in order to gain their freedom and gain their sense of self to be able to do that freely without being subjugated to other people's laws and other people's traditions. So it says here, let me tell you about the miracle. The last famous battle was for the fortress of Antonius, which guarded the temple. When Antonius fell, the Jews came back to the temple. They shattered the statue of Zeus and cleaned the temple to the extent that they could. Any priests who worked for the Greeks were sent away or executed. They only found one small flask of uncontaminated oil with the seal of the high priest. By Torah law, the flame of the menorah, this is the candelarium, in the temple could only be lit with specially prepared pure olive oil. The amount of oil remaining in the one uncontaminated flask was only enough to burn for 1 day, and it would take 8 days to produce a new batch of pure oil. What could they do? So they lit it, and it miraculously burned for 8 days. So that is why Hanukkah lasts 8 nights, is the festival that was established a year later that this miracle happened by the rabbis. Amazing, right? All right. Now I need you all to get back on the train, because we got to head over to Africa and the Americas, where Kwanzaa is being celebrated. You ever heard of it? Okay, let's go. All right. So, fun fact, my son, when he was growing up, I had him watching Caillou. That was one of the cartoons that I had around the house. That way my child could be entertained. I thought Caillou was a great example. And I was like, yeah, this seems like a kind kid, right? And wholesome and all of that. So I was like, yeah. And I think if my memory serves me right, in one of those episodes, we got to see, I think Caillou got to see another family celebrate Kwanzaa, and they had a little bit about it. But let me tell you about Kwanzaa. And this is coming from the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Kwanzaa is a time for families and communities to come together to remember the past and to celebrate African American culture. Created in 1966 by Maulana Ron Carrigan, Kwanzaa is an African American and Pan-African holiday that celebrates history, values, family, community, and culture. The ideas and concepts in this holiday are expressed in the Swahili language, one of the most widely spoken languages in Africa. And at its base, it has 7 principles. That is the core of this holiday. And the 7 principles are very noble. I like them. They are umoja, which means unity; kujichagulia, self-determination; ujima, collective work and responsibility; ujama, cooperative economics; nia, purpose; kumba, creativity; and imani, faith. And Kwanzaa gets its name from the Swahili phrase matunda ya Kwanzaa, and it's rooted in first fruit celebrations, which you can find those in various different cultures, right? Where they celebrate the first fruits, the first harvest, right? Which is always a miraculous event, right? When we have the earth bring up something to the humanity that is living off of it. I mean, that is powerful in and of itself. So I think that's why you see a lot of cultures that celebrate first fruits. All right, so a little bit more about Kwanzaa is that Maulana Ron Carrigan created it to reaffirm and restore African heritage culture, to introduce and reinforce the Guso Saba, or the 7 principles that I just read to you, to serve as a nationally celebrated communal and non-heroic holiday, and as an act of cultural self-determination. I like this. I really like this. A little bit more last thing about Kwanzaa is that each day a candle is lit on the kinara, representing 7 core principles like the ones that I told you: unity, creativity, faith, and unity, and so forth. And it ends with a big feast and gift giving. And this is all about community and connection, which we can see, right? Just from the 7 basic principles here. All right, the train is about to depart, so I need you all to get in your seats now, okay? We're headed over to India, where Diwali, the festival of light, is brightening up homes and hearts everywhere there. I need you all to see this. All right. So the origins of Diwali are quite interesting. So I'm taking this from history.com. And it says here that every year around October and November, Hindus around the world celebrate Diwali or Deepavali, a festival of lights that stretches back more than 2,500 years. Like many Hindu festivals, there isn't just one reason to celebrate the 5-day holiday. We have Pankaj Jain, a professor of anthropology, philosophy, and religion at the University of North Texas, that says that the Asian celebration is linked to multiple stories and religious texts. So there's not really a way to determine which came first or how long ago Diwali started. Many of these stories, as you can see from the Hanukkah story, are stories that have to do with triumph of good versus evil. And in here it says that in northern India, a common tale associated with Diwali is about King Rama. Listen to this. This is pretty cool. One of the incarnations of the god Vishnu. When an evil king in Lanka, which people usually associate with Sri Lanka, captures Rama's wife, Sita, he builds up an army of monkeys to rescue her. The monkeys build a bridge over from India to Sri Lanka, and they invade Sri Lanka and free Sita and kill that evil king. As Rama and Sita return to the north, millions of lights are spread out across the city just to welcome them. That is beautiful. Just imagine that scenery. So lighting lamps has long been one of the ways that Hindus celebrate Diwali. And that is just in one area of India, because right here we have in the south, Diwali is popularly linked to a story about the Hindu god Krishna, a different incarnation of Vishnu, in which he frees some 16,000 women from another evil king. So you see, so different parts have different stories that they have attached to Diwali. But like Hanukkah, they all have the one thing in common, which is that good triumph over evil. All right, it's time to get on that train. Y'all ready? Choo choo. I can't believe I did that. Okay, let's go. Just get on your seats, people. And we are headed wherever pagans are, because we are talking about Yule. Yes, welcome to Yule, or the winter solstice. So pagans celebrated Yule, and which marks the shortest day and the longest night of the year, symbolizing the rebirth of the sun. Yule marks the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere. All right, so this is coming from learnreligions.com, and it's an article that they have that talks about history of Yule. And right here it says, European origins of Yule. In the northern hemisphere, the winter solstice has been celebrated for millennia. The Norse peoples, who called it Yule, viewed it as a time for much feasting and merrymaking. In addition, if the Icelandic sagas are to be believed, this was a time of sacrifice as well. Traditional customs such as the Yule log, which I've made, the decorated trees, which I think a lot of Christian households have, and wassailing can all be traced back to Norse origins. The Celts of the British Isle celebrated midwinter as well. Although little is known today about the specifics of what they did, many traditions persist. According to the writings of Pliny the Elder, this is the time of year in which Druid priests sacrificed a white bull and gathered mistletoes in celebration. The editors over at Huffington Post remind us that until the 16th century, the winter months were a time of famine in Northern Europe. Most cattle were slaughtered so that they wouldn't have to be fed during the winter, making the solstice a time when fresh meat was plentiful. Most celebrations of the winter solstice in Europe involved merriment and feasting. In pre-Christian Scandinavian, the Feast of Jule, or Yule, lasted for 12 days, celebrating the rebirth of the sun and giving rise to the custom of burning a Yule log. Isn't that nice? So, kind of like Kwanzaa, that uses the first fruits to anchor tradition, we see something similar here with Yule, and that anchors tradition to something that occurs here on Earth, which is when the axis tilt, and now we have the longest night and the shortest day. All right. We are going to Japan now. So hop on your seats because we are about to roll. All right. So Japan celebrates Omisoka. And here I am taking from a kidsworld.com article that talks about Omisoka. We've all heard of New Year's Eve, but not everyone has heard of Omisoka, a similar holiday celebration in Japan. Omisoka is a very important holiday for Japanese people and is celebrated at the same time as New Year's Eve in North America. So Omisoka is celebrated as the beginning of a new year with new possibilities. Ooh. I know there's a lot of people, regardless of their country of origin, religion, or traditions, that see the new year as kind of like a rebirth, a way to start fresh, start anew. So you see how the tradition here in Omisoka also sees the same thing. We are having a new year, hence we have new possibilities. But let's talk about their celebrations. Sorry, that's Octavia. Octavia wants to be part of the podcast, people. All right. So, in preparation for a new year and a clean slate, people that celebrate Omisoka, they purify their homes and remove last year's clutter by cleaning from top to bottom. This is called osoji. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Reading this article really made me understand like how much we have in common regardless of our origins and our religion and traditions. In my very Latino household, and I don't know if it's exactly like our tradition, but I know for us in my household, I grew up understanding that the house needed to be clean because you wanted to shake off last year's dust, hence last year's bad luck, bad things that happened. You wanted to shake it off. You wanted to sweep it all the way out to your curve. And then you wanted to come back in and clean your house top and bottom. So that way you can start fresh, like a clean slate. When I read this, I was like, oh my goodness, I've been doing kind of like the same thing in preparation for the New Year's in my household. To this day, I still do that. Like right now, I'm in the process of cleaning my house from top to bottom. I did one cleaning 2 days ago, and I'm going to go second floor, and then I'll be dusting because I don't want none of that to be lingering in the house. You see what I'm saying? This is amazing. I love when I find commonalities like this. Going back to Omisoka, they have a giant feast with friends and families with some traditional Japanese food. Often people go out to celebrate or stay home and watch a nationwide New Year's talent competition until it's time to count down to midnight. Yes, they have like a what is it? Like an American Idol-esque show that they play during New Year's Eve and it stops. The competition is done a half an hour prior to midnight. Wow. So, but it's not just about having a party, like it says here on kidsworld.com. It's also considered a spiritual event for many Japanese people. And at midnight, they visit Shinto shrines. Temples ring a large cast iron bell at midnight to signify the 108 earthly wants that created human suffering. Wow. And here the article has some of their traditions. So, like I said, people clean their houses, they eat a large meal, and at 11 p.m., they gather around to have one last meal of toshikoshi soba noodles. I know, right? This is a tradition that comes from the belief that eating long noodles will give you a long life and help you cross from one year to the next. And then another reason, listen to this, another reason why they cook so much food on this day is because it has to last for the first 3 days of the new year. Because most businesses are closed and it's considered bad luck to cook for the first 3 days of the coming new year. I know. At midnight, temples not only toll their bell to signify human desires that cause suffering, but they also hand out a traditional sweet drink called Amasaka. The toll of the large bell is called Yoya no Kane. I know I'm butchering these, but head over to kidsworld.com and you can read more on that one. All right, folks, we got to get back on that train, okay? Because we're going to Mexico and Latin America, where Las Posadas bring communities together. Get in, because we got to go. All right, so we are reading from journeymexico.com, and it's a blog that they have that is titled Posadas in Mexico, a Christmas Tradition. So they're saying, what are posadas? The word posada means inn or lodging, and traditionally, posadas are a celebration of the Christmas story. They take place on 9 nights from December 16 to 24. Noche Buena, and commemorate the Virgin Mary and Saint Joseph's search for a place to stay where Jesus could be born. Posadas in Mexico feature hot food and drinks, sweets, music, and piñatas. Throughout Mexico, churches and communities still celebrate these festivities with their traditional religious elements. Today, almost any party held around Christmas is called a posada. Schools often host posadas as end of the year parties for students and teachers. But let's read how it originated. Posadas in Mexico began as a way for the Spaniards to teach native people about Christmas. During the 9 days leading up to Christmas Day, masses would include representations of Mary and Joseph. Following Mass was a party where people were blindfolded before hitting a piñata with a stick, a representation of faith defeating temptation with the help of virtue. I didn't know that. The fruits and sweets that poured out of the piñata represented the joys of union with God. In time, posadas started to be held in neighborhoods and people's homes, becoming a more familiar and tightly knit occasion, as well as preparation for Christmas. At the beginning of a posada, people are divided into 2 groups: the ones outside, representing Mary and Joseph, and the ones inside, representing the innkeepers. Ooh. Then everyone sings the Posada Litany together, reenacting Mary and Joseph's search, going back and forth until they're finally admitted to an inn. After this tradition, the party proper starts. Posadas have spread to other countries such as Guatemala, Ecuador, Colombia, and Venezuela. And the celebrations, as you may know, kind of like Diwali, they're going to vary from country to country or region to region. But as you can see, the basis of this is rooted in colonization. So it was a way for Spaniards to enforce their religion on the natives, which to me has a little bit of a sad undertone because I'm not about that life. But I am happy of what it evolved to later on. But I wish natives would have held on to their traditions because they have beautiful traditions. All right, so we have a little bit about tamales, which is a treat that is made of steamed corn dough filled with meats, cheese, and vegetables. And you can find tamales in Mexican households, usually year round, but we do them specifically during the holiday season. When I say we, I mean my family. I married into a Mexican family, and tamales is very much done during this holiday season. And as one that loves to eat them, I am here for that. All right. Are y'all ready? Because we got to get back out again. We got to go to East Asia, where they're celebrating Lunar New Year. Get in, get in, get in. Let's go. All right. So some of y'all have either seen it in movies or seen it in other places. You see red everywhere, which symbolizes good fortune, dragon dances, giving red envelopes, right? And it's just this amazing feast that happens during Lunar New Year. But let's dig a little bit more into that. And I am reading from Wake Forest University, wfu.edu. All right, so it says right here Chinese New Year, also known as Lunar New Year or Spring Festival, is China's most important festival. It is also the most important celebration for families and includes a week of official public holiday. Just think about it, people, a whole week of a public holiday. Oh, that would be so great. The history of the Chinese New Year festival can be traced back to about 3,500 years ago. Chinese New Year has evolved over a long period of time, and its customs have undergone a long developmental process. So, when exactly is Chinese New Year? The date of the Chinese New Year is determined by the lunar calendar. The holiday falls on the second new moon after the winter solstice on December 21st. Oh, you see the connection there, the intersection there. So now we have Yule connecting with Chinese New Year or Lunar New Year. Each year of the New Year in China falls on a different date than on the Gregorian calendar. The dates usually range sometime between January 21st and February 20th. Why is it called the Spring Festival? Even though it is winter, the Chinese New Year is popularly known as the Spring Festival in China because it starts from the beginning of spring, the first of the 24 terms, and coordinating with the changes of nature. It marks the end of winter and the beginning of spring. The Spring Festival marks a new year on the lunar calendar and represents the desire for a new life. What is the legend, though, of the origin of Chinese New Year? Let's read further. Chinese New Year is steeped with stories and myth. Ooh, this sounds like Diwali. One of the most popular legends is about the mythical beast Neon. He ate livestock, crops, and even people on the eve of a new year. To prevent Neon from attacking people and causing destruction, people put food at their doors for Neon. It's said that a wise old man figured out that Neon was scared of loud noises and the color red. So people put red lanterns and red scrolls under windows and doors to stop Neon from coming inside. Crackling bamboo was lit to scare Neon away. Do you see how this crackling bamboo or the loud noises are now firecrackers? Yes. All right, let's read a little bit about Chinese New Year's origin in the Shang Dynasty. So Chinese New Year's has a history of about 3,500 years. Its exact beginning date is not recorded. Some people believe that Chinese New Year originated in the Shang Dynasty when people held sacrificial ceremonies in honor of gods and ancestors at the beginning or the end of each year. And did you know that Chinese New Year date was fixed in the Han Dynasty? The date of the festival during the Han Dynasty was the first day of the first month in the Chinese lunar calendar. So it was fixed. And this was from 202 BC to 220 AD. But then in the Wei and Jin Dynasty, apart from worshiping gods and ancestors, people began to entertain themselves. You see the evolution happening here? The customs of a family getting together to clean their house, having a dinner, and staying up late on New Year's Eve originated among common people. Then from the Tang and Qing dynasty, the prosperity of economies and cultures during the Tang, Song, and Qing dynasties celebrated the development of the Spring Festival. The customs during the festival became similar to those of modern times. So this is when we're starting to see what we see now. Setting off firecrackers, visiting relatives and friends, and eating dumplings became important parts of the celebration. More entertaining activities arose, such as watching dragon and lion dances during the temple fair and enjoying lantern shows. The function of the Spring Festival changed from a religious one to an entertaining and social one, more like that of what we see today. And here we are, modern times. So we see that in 1912, the government decided to abolish Chinese New Year and the lunar calendar, and it adopted the Gregorian calendar instead and made January 1 the official start of the new year. After 1949, Chinese New Year was renamed the Spring Festival. It was listed as a nationwide public holiday. Nowadays, though, many traditional activities are disappearing, but new trends have been generated. CCTV, China Central Television Spring Festival Gala, shopping online, WeChat red envelopes, and overseas travel made Chinese New Year more interesting. And they have here other websites to read and see more. But as you can see, the Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year, or Spring Festival has evolved quite a lot from its inception, its beginnings, all the way to what we see today. And I think it's safe to say that all of the holidays that we have discussed here has been adapted to meet the demands per se of the people that are celebrating them, as well as how the time and progression and technology and so forth happens. So everything is adapted to adopt to the new generation and the new environment where it's being celebrated. But at the end of the day, all of these have something in common, which is usually there is a story there where good triumphs over evil. And it's a celebration that brings community together, right? And I think that is the most important thing of all, is just bringing the community to celebrate and to really settle ourselves into those core beliefs. I love all these holidays. I hope you learned something. I know I did. Like, I was putting a lot of things together as I was reading some of these things with you. And I hope to see you next Wednesday because, I'm going to have to do a New Year's episode with New Year's traditions as well. Some of the New Year's tradition that I have, and we're going to talk about habit forming because I know a lot of people, they have all these goals for the New Year's, right? And all these other things. So that's something to look forward to for the next episode of the Have a Cup of Johnny podcast. Nevertheless, this was a great journey. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will see you next Wednesday. Bye.
Oh, we could fly.
Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the show. See you on the next episode. Bye.
Oh, we could fly.